Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. Now, coming up, we have my dear friend, Rich Valdes. He is host of This is America with Rich Valdes, and he is the voice of Hispanic Conservatives. He was also the director of operations at Project Veritas and is a producer and regular guest host of the nationally syndicated Mark Levine Show. Today, Rich is here to chat with me about the latest in vaccine mandates and what that means for us New Yorkers. He's also going to enlighten us on what he predicts will play out between Russia and the Ukraine as Biden and Putin enter heavy discussions. More on that to come in just a bit with Rich. Now, Mayor Bill de Blasio announced what he called a first in the nation vaccine mandate for private companies earlier this week. He said the combo of the Omicron variant and holiday gatherings forced him to take bold steps, giving businesses just 3 weeks to make sure that their workers are vaccinated. The city will release specific rules on December 15th before the mandate takes effect on December 27th. Now, it will apply to in-person employees. There will also be no weekly testing options, and that's kind of a kicker. New York City previously imposed vaccine mandates for city workers, but this will be the first of its kind for the private sector, impacting 184,000 businesses. So far, 94% of municipal employees have gotten their shot. And something to note, the mandate takes effect just days before de Blasio leaves office. How coincidental. New York City is also extending the vaccine mandate for indoor dining, fitness, and entertainment to include children. Yup, they finally took the step. Children ages 5 to 11. Starting December 14th, kids in that age group will be required to show proof of at least one shot. And then, to make matters worse or more complicated, on December 27th, children ages 12 and older will need proof of both doses, except for the ones that received the J&J vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson. Now, this is all kinds of layers that they're adding to a very crippled economic state for New York City in general. And now, on another note, President Joe Biden must remain firm against Russian President Vladimir Putin, and the possibility that Russian troops, which are amassed at the Ukraine border, could launch a strike at the neighboring country is very real. I think Biden definitely needs to accomplish a lot with Putin over the next few weeks, as the U.S. needs to back Russia away from invading Ukraine. Here to break it all down for me and make it more simpler is Rich Valdes. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Hey, what's going on, Zen? Welcome.
Thanks for having me. What a fiasco.
It's crazy. So Bill El Bobo de Blasio, the mayor of New York City, this is probably the further most lurch to the left that he's made in a while. Because now he's saying, look, you can't test, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is truly pain compliance for everybody that's not falling in line. This is some real kind of iron-fisted hand of the government falling upon the will of the people. And not only the will of the people, but now he's going after kids, right? As young as 5 years old. You got to be 5 years old to have a Happy Meal in McDonald's. Indoor dining. I mean, this blows me away. In Spanish, we'd say, "Qué locura," what craziness. I'm at a loss for words, which is rare for me on this one, because I think this is really going to hurt Bill de Blasio. I don't know many people that have 5-year-olds that are looking to get them vaccinated. And I don't think that they're going to be as fanatical about vaccinating kids for a new variant, Omicron, that isn't even killing adults.
And, some are even raising questions. I mean, I, as a mom, have very different views because I see things from both sides. You're right. There's a lot of New Yorkers that are extremely against this vaccine. And now we even have raising questions about whether it will slow the return to Manhattan Central Business District, which is crucial to the city's economy. And let me point out some specifics here. In the Bronx, with 15% unemployment, 28% of residents will no longer be able to work on December 27th, including 44% of Black young adults. And as a result of this de Blasio vaccine mandate for the private sector, you're going to have a crippling effect on the economy again. You had New York State Attorney General Letitia James, who said that she supports a vaccine mandate, but with a testing option. But this guy is dropping the hammer, no testing option. And I think this is a little bit extreme. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so I think part of what both Bill El Bobo de Blasio and Joe El Baboso Biden, I think what they both do, and I make fun of them because I think so much of what they do is silly, but they have real world impacts on our lives, is they're willing to just say the most outlandish things and create the most outlandish scenarios where they can say, well, you know what, you're not going to be able to do this, and we're not going to have a testing option. You're going to lose your job. And some people actually have. But I think all of it is, again, it's paying compliance. It's like, do what I say or I'll hurt you. And if you don't, you're going to feel the wrath. The reality, though, is I don't believe there's going to be heavy enforcement on this because I don't know how they would enforce it. I don't think this has a ton of very solid legal basis to it. I don't think that the police powers of a city can be enacted for something as simple as, you know, we're having a public health crisis that is not really a crisis in this particular situation. It's kind of mitigated. This isn't the height of the pandemic. This, in my opinion, would be the tail end of the pandemic. So it's questionable how much authority and power the mayor is going to have if we're not in the middle of some sort of natural disaster. So I think there probably won't be a ton of enforcement because if they did, that would open them up to lawsuits, and those lawsuits would likely be lost. And I think this is just them saying as much as they can to scare everybody into doing what they want them to do.
Interesting. Well, you make valid points. What you're saying makes total sense. And, you know, when you think about the bigger picture, there's about 62,000 small businesses in Brooklyn alone. So this is setting up problematic confrontations between employers and staff, which could result in layoffs around the holidays. That would be incredibly unfortunate. That's the last thing we need. So I think that the timing of the mayor's announcement and the failure to consult with the business community alone makes a very nervous, bad situation worse. It makes it tougher for all of us. And to go further, the mandate now means that, like you said, many young people, and myself included as a mom, we need to scramble to get that either first shot or second shot to keep eating out or participating even in after school activities. Only about 27% of New Yorkers ages 5 to 12 have taken at least one dose, and just 15% are fully vaccinated. So this is what, in a matter of a week, to figure it out, chop. It's a bit harsh.
Well, and that's exactly the point. And I think also the economic impact is also equally as harsh. When you mentioned those stats before, not only in Brooklyn, but in the Bronx. And it makes me think Bill de Blasio is not the only bad guy here, right? There's other boogeymen. What about AOC, all out crazy, our least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens? What about her? What is she doing to defend her district? All right, I thought that she was the defender of Black, Indigenous people of color, what they call BIPOC. Guess what? She's not saying a damn thing. She's been silent on the issue that African Americans and Hispanics are going to be losing their jobs in record numbers because of the effect that this is going to have on the Bronx. So and the city overall. You know, when you look at the city the way it is, you have a police force that's more Black and Hispanic than anything else. You have so much of the city that is so diverse and is going to pay a high price for this. It makes you think, who's really looking out for the minorities? I don't think it's Bill de Blasio. I don't think it's AOC or Chuck Schumer. And I think the people are going to slowly realize these people, the left-leaning Democrats, are really not in our corner. And I think this isn't going to work out well for them in the long run.
I couldn't agree more. This is a bit too much too soon. Now we have about 1:50 left, and let's talk very quickly Russia. It's in the best interest, in my opinion, not only for the United States and the European Union, but for the world's best interest, for Russia to stand down and just let Ukraine pick and choose its own course. Putin is pushing back against Ukraine, potentially joining NATO, and that organization works because an attack on one nation is an attack on all. And even without Ukraine officially being part of NATO, Putin is rolling some major dice here. What do you say to this?
Well, you know, there's a treaty that was signed a bunch of years ago when Ukraine relinquished their nuclear weapons, and the United States committed to them that both the United States, China, and the UK actually would defend them in lieu of them not having these nuclear weapons. So whether Biden says, oh, I want to sit this one out or not, I mean, it's kind of on paper. We said, hey, we'd have your back to make sure Russia doesn't invade you. And this was, 50 years ago. So I think it's not going to be that simple, number one. Number two, you look at the actual dynamic between Biden and Putin when they were having this Zoom teleconference or Skype or whatever it was. And you have to think, man, Joe Biden couldn't even figure out how to get that going. He's waving there because he didn't know how to turn on his volume to actually have a conversation. This is not the epitome of strength that the United States wants to be depicted as. I think Putin is seeing strength. He smells blood in the water, and he's going to act on that. And it's going to be interesting to see how this continues to play out, because Russia is not necessarily aggressive towards the United States, but they definitely have their own goals in their region. And they'll become way more aggressive in their region if they know that the United States will do nothing, including violating our own treaty with Ukraine, who happens to be an ally.
Yeah, very interesting. That's true. I mean, look, we're out of time, but what I will end by saying is that, you know, former President Ronald Reagan's philosophy of power with strength is still the right philosophy for dealing with Russia. But in this case, Rich, it's just not being followed. But listen, thank you for coming on. Thank you for filling in somebody else's shoes on the last moment's notice. You did a great job, and we love having you on.
Thank you. Peace through strength, trust but verify. That's what Reagan said. Thanks, Zen.
That's right. That's right. There you have it. That was the very famous Rich Valdes. Definitely check out his podcast. This is America with Rich Valdes, right here on the iHeart platform, but he's accessible pretty much everywhere. This is your host, Zen Sams. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the Voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.